Hi, I'm Rick, the Rockhound Realtor. Feel free to click on the links below and follow us, and subscribe, and check out our links to our real estate business. And real estate is what sponsors all of our rockhounding tours that we do. So feel free to follow us and send us real estate questions in business. Appreciate it. Thanks. So next we'll talk about hardness. Hardness is the resistance to abrasion or scratch, which is not the same thing as toughness. They're often confused. Toughness is the resistance to breakage. So a diamond is by far the hardest mineral there is, many times harder than even corundum, which is the next one on the scale. But jade is by far the toughest mineral. It's the hardest one to break. A diamond breaks pretty easily, and jade does not break very easily. So you have a difference between hardness and toughness. So this one here, we're going to talk about hardness, and we're going to use a couple of common things that you can use around the house. Is a steel file or a knife. They're about a 5.5. A penny is about a 3. Your fingernails are 2.5. A washer can be used for a 5.5 as well. So those are some common things. You can get a hardness test kit like this that has the common hardnesses through there. Little pieces of the stone actually glued onto the aluminum pencil. But hardness is a relative term, so we're using hardness as one against another. So you take two minerals, you can scratch them against each other. Obviously you don't want to do it on the most prominent crystal face. You want to do it someplace that is not a crystal face that you're going to be looking at, the base or something like that. And so you can do that. You scratch them against each other. If they scratch each other, they're the same hardness. If A scratches B and B doesn't scratch A, then A is obviously harder. And so you can do it down into half hardnesses. That's pretty easy to determine. And if you see all these places like on Facebook and in the internet and stuff that talk about hardness of 5.5 and 5.8, 5.9, you can't really determine those in a hand test. That's impossible. There are machines and other testing methods where they can determine that kind of hardness, but you can't do it on your own. So hardnesses are going to be on a scale of 1 to 10, and you can break them down into halves. So if something is harder than a 3 but not as hard as a 4, we'd call it a 3.5. Frederick Moses is the guy that came up with this in 1822. He was a mineralogist, and he was looking for ways to determine hardness of minerals evenly. And so he was able to come up with common minerals that had even hardnesses, distribution between them, so that the variance between a 2 and a 3 and a 3 and a 4 was about the same. And so he was very effective in doing that, and even he realized that diamond was way harder than corundum, but there's not a whole lot of things that are in that hardness scale anyway at that end. So it works really good, and it's a function of how the molecules are put together, or that's one of the functions of how it is. What determines the hardness is the way the molecules are put together, the bonding between the molecules, as well as how much water is in that particular mineral. Sometimes water is part of the chemical formula. And if it's something like opal that has a lot of water, it's got a really weak hardness. So, all right, so we're going to just do a quick little hardness test here just to show how to do it. I'm going to pull out, let's pull out a 7. On the Mohs hardness scale, a 7 is quartz. And so if you have a little mineral like this that you don't know what it is, you can take it and scratch it. Oh, that doesn't even come close to scratching it. You always want to wipe it off and make sure you're just not taking a powdered sample of this specimen onto your test. So we'll try an 8. No, an 8 does scratch it, so we know that this is at least an 8. And in this case, I already know this is a topaz crystal, and so we know that it's going to scratch that. So we're going to take this one, and we're going to scratch it. This is with the 7 again. It does not scratch. And with an 8 it does. So it's somewhere between the 7 and the 8. In this case, I already know this is not a quartz, but it's somewhere between 7 and 8, so about 7.5, maybe even pushing 8. This is a piece of aquamarine, so it's burl. So we know that it's harder than the quartz, than the topaz, so it doesn't scratch the topaz. I mean, it scratches the topaz, but the topaz doesn't scratch it. So, all right, and then soft minerals like this, you can almost scratch with your fingernail. Well, I can't scratch this with my fingernail. I can just gouge that right there. This is gypsum. Gypsum has a hardness of 3. I'm sorry, 2. It has a hardness of 2.